So when I was growing up in like the 2000s, when people talked about elite teams in college football, they would just say, like, for example, the USCs, and then it was the Floridas, and then Saban gets to Alabama. But there are always these 2 or 3 teams that you just rattle off as an example of the top level of college football. You hadn't won a national title here yet. You haven't won an SEC title here yet. But yet that conversation's Texas now. I don't know how rewarding that is, but it's got to be at least a little validating to know when people are rattling off the examples of what it's supposed to look like, they don't get too far down the list before, there it is, Texas, right back in the combo.
Well, I'd like to validate it maybe with a couple of trophies.
You still do want a championship?
Yeah, that would be nice. I think that we've worked really hard, obviously. When we got here, I think I say this all the time. When you take on a job like this, one of the keys to this is understanding what you sign up for. And there's clearly a standard at the University of Texas about competing and winning championships. And that's not just in football. It's across the board. And you think about, we've won 3 of the last 4 Directors' Cups. We have 21 sports here. 9 of them have been ranked number 1 in the country in their respective sports this year. That's almost half, right? And so when you think about it that way, there's a standard of excellence that we have to strive for here, that we're held accountable to. But that's what you have to know. That's what you sign up for. And so going into year 5, it's been a lot of work. It's been a lot of work, on the field, on the grass with the players. It's been a lot of work behind the scenes, recruiting players, developing players in the program, producing NFL talent. Been a lot of work with stuff that's going on facility-wise and what we've been doing. And so much credit goes to the administration and to Chris Del Conte and the support he's given us, to our donors to want to make this thing grow and build into something where year in and year out we can compete for championships. Now, ultimately, the onus is on us. We have to try to go and do this and get it done. But at the end of the day, we've put ourselves in a good position to where maybe people do talk about us in that light. But at the end of the day, I'm kind of about the reward at the end rather than what other people think. I'd rather actually have something to show for it.
We talked last year, and I remember you told the story about how when you were finishing your time at Bama, when you were getting hired at Texas, you sort of took the job sight unseen. You hadn't really...
I didn't sort of. I did.
Like Austin. Let me find it on a map. Let me look at pictures on the internet. I Googled it. So you had, like anyone else who takes a job, you have an idea of what you think the Texas head coaching job is. And then you're probably looking from a program perspective, what I think we could turn it into if we handle our business the right way.
Yeah.
But there's a whole lot you can't know until you take over the job. So now you're several years in. So how do you compare, in your outsider's perspective, what you thought the Texas job would be versus now in the weeds, boots on the ground, what it has been for you?
I've been thinking about this quite a bit. I got here in January of 21, coming out of that COVID football season, which was like one of the oddest years ever. And we had a great team at Bama.
And congrats on the Iron Bowl win, by the way.
Yeah, how about that? I was the interim head coach.
Oh, the Wikipedia page, just like people don't even know. Is this a typo?
Yeah.
No, you head coached Alabama in the Iron Bowl.
I tried to talk Coach Saban into an onside kick and to start the game. He didn't want to do it, but anyhow, we won, so it worked out. And then, at the end of that spring semester, your athletic department always gives you your cumulative team GPA for the year, fall, spring semesters. And we had a 2.33 team GPA, and I thought, that's not very good. Granted, University of Texas, great institution, top 5 public university in the country, 2.33 is not great. Then the season rolls around, and we go 5-7, and we had blown 6 straight second-half leads. Not very good.
No draft picks.
We have no draft picks. So what was the problem? What was our issue? I said, we have a culture issue. We lack accountability. We're entitled, okay? We don't serve others. It's about me. And that in that moment, I know we've touched on this before, but in that moment, it was like, that's the real issue going on. Granted, we want talent, right? And we want to acquire talent. We want to retain our talent. And we put an emphasis on the line of scrimmage and those types of things. But at the end of the day, it wasn't a talent issue that we had that year. It was a culture issue. And so now, fast forward, going into year 5, what has come out of this is we have a group of players on our team now that they're the ones we recruited. They're the ones that have grown up with us, right? Our fourth-year seniors have been with us now for 4 straight years. Our third-year players, that Arch, that Anthony Hill, the Cedric Baxters, the Manny Muhammads, the Derek Williams, that group of guys, they don't know any different than what we do. And so I think about my time at Bama, and granted it was closing in on the end for Coach Saban's run there, but how that was ran, how the older players educated the younger players on what was acceptable, what was not, how we went about our business at Bama has now started to come to fruition here. And I think about what Kirby's been able to do at Georgia, or what Dabo's been able to do at Clemson, or what Ryan's been able to do at Ohio State. They're kind of in front of us in that cycle, but their cycle is really well underway. Our cycle really now has just begun, because now we've got nothing but players that don't know any different than what we do, and why those things are important. And to watch them lead in a way differently now than maybe we did the past couple of years is really fun to be part of now. And it's exciting to see. It's exciting to watch it kind of come to life.
The stakes at this level are so high.
Yeah.
I mean, the rewards are too. The compensation is. Everybody knows that, but the stakes are so high.
Yeah.
We were at Ohio State last week, and Ryan Day said, paraphrasing, but he said the fact of the matter was our guys came to the realization that if we didn't win that national championship game, there would be no reward, and they would get no recognition for all the hard work they had put in. And he's not just talking about that year. He's talking about year over year over year. So you've got your wave of guys, sort of the first wave of guys that you just said are ours, and they've been trained the way we want, and they think the way we want, and here they are. And now it's their time, and it's a player-led team in the best of cases, like you just said. But then, along with that, comes the pressure of there are going to be about 3 or 4 games this year. There are going to be probably half a dozen moments that you either execute in or you fail in.
Yeah.
And that ends up defining your legacy 20 years from now. When you're in a shopping mall in Fort Worth, or you're down in San Antonio, someone sees you, like, that's what they remember, which is crazy to think about.
Isn't it awesome, though?
It is awesome. I do love it.
That's why we love college football. So different than the NFL, and some of which I think we're gravitating a little bit more towards because of the expanded playoffs. But in college football, the regular season matters. And it matters immensely. The game in Columbus we have in week 1 is going to matter. When we go to Florida there, for game 5, that game's going to matter. When we go to Athens, Georgia, that game's going to matter, right? The last regular season game here against A&M is going to matter. When we go to Dallas against OU, those games are going to matter this season, just so that we can get a chance to get into the playoff, to do what you're talking about, what you're mentioning. So that's the beauty of our sport, though, that week in and week out, every game matters. In the NFL, you can get into the playoffs at 9-8, right? You can get in the playoffs at 10-7. You can almost lose every other game and have an opportunity to go compete for a championship. We don't have that luxury in college football. And so I think that's the beauty of it. And I'd say for our guys, it's been a pretty good trajectory, right? It's been a pretty good climb from 5-7 to 8-5 to our final year in the Big 12, going 12-2 and winning the Big 12 conference championship our last year, and getting into the CFP, getting into the semifinals against Washington, and then transitioning to the SEC when it was like, hey, you need to take your time, wait your turn, and getting into the SEC championship game and going into overtime with Georgia, and then going back to the CFP. Of the 4 teams from the year before, we were the only one that made it back last year. And to get back to the semis and to be on the brink against the national champion, Ohio State, I think gives us a lot of confidence in knowing that the seat at the table that we've earned, we're at the right place at the right time. Now, we all want to go finish the deal. We all want to your point, be the team at the end of the year that's hoisting the trophy. But it's been a steady climb, and it's been a consistent climb. And I've never felt like we've been on a roller coaster ride here. It's been very consistent. And that's a credit to our players. That's a credit to our staff. That's a credit to our administration, that everybody's, rowing this boat in the same direction, and everybody's on board with their commitment level to try to get this done.
Have you found that as you continue to recruit classes, or you dip into the portal every now and then for guys, you don't really have to sell the idea anymore that you could win at Texas? Because everyone's seeing you win at Texas.
Right.
I remember listening to Nick Saban a long time ago talk about his first few classes at Alabama and how he had very little issue selling guys on coming in here and showing what they can do for Alabama.
Right.
Well, then they started to win. And then he said, we sort of got infected a little bit with guys coming with the idea of, what can Alabama do for me?
Yeah.
And he said there was a period there where you sort of had to hit the reset button because once it's proven that you can win there, some guys come there and, they're going to contribute, but really they're more interested in what they get out of it for them.
Yeah.
What do you do to guard against that mentality?
Well, I think that's this day and age to some degree, right, of where we're at, right? We're talking about NIL, we're talking about transfer portal, we're talking about conference realignment, all the things that are, the college football playoff, all the things that are going on in college football. But we live in an instant gratification world in general, right? How quickly can I get it, and then how am I going to get it? And I think at the end of the day, hard work works. Right. And when we can recognize the hard work and when we can show in real time why somebody else is earning more playing time than somebody else in that moment, that it's not, we say it all the time. We're capable of anything around here. We're entitled to nothing. And entitlement is a really scary thing in college football right now that we have to fight against. We have to monitor really closely because the moment you feel entitled, that hard work doesn't quite kind of match up with what the expectations might be, right? Because the worst word in sports is potential. That is the worst word. You never. I tell our players all the time, you never want to be labeled a guy with great potential because that means you're not him, right? That means you aren't living up to what you're capable of being. And so we tend not to shy away from it. We talk to it. We embrace it. Expectations are what they are for the program, but expectations are what they are for the individual players too, right? Nobody came to Texas just to put on a t-shirt anymore that says Texas football. Guys are coming here with the right things in mind, right? Get a great degree, compete for championships, get developed, and then have an opportunity to fulfill their dreams of playing in the NFL.
I coached Little League for 1 year, and I had to stop coaching Little League because parents coming to me about why their kid wasn't playing was really aggravating because they wouldn't accept the answer that he's not the best option. He does not give us the best chance to win in right field. What was crazy is one day a mom is complaining to me about the playing time for her kid. Well, I called the kid over and I said, your mom is complaining that you're not getting a lot of playing time. Who do you think you should be starting over? And his head kind of slumped and he said, I shouldn't be. So like it wasn't him, it was his mom.
Exactly.
But so at your level, you may deal with parents, but you're dealing with players who, in some cases, because they don't get it instantly, they may want to hit the portal exit, or at the very least, they're disgruntled and they want to know why. And you just said, we don't shy away from it. We're very brutally honest. If I'm that kid right now, and I'm running with a 2s or 3 at slot receiver, and I think I should be starting, what kind of information are you giving me, and how are you delivering it in a way that is blunt, but also in a way that shows we want you here. Just because you're not starting right now doesn't mean you're not going to eventually play for us.
Well, here's one example. Let's go with spring ball's done, okay? And we have a really simple form that gets filled out by our academic department on every player. He's got a form. Here's Josh Pate. Boom. Here's how he's doing academically. Here's our strength and conditioning coach, Tori Beckton, is going to fill out how he's doing in the weight room. Boom. Here's his position coach. Here's his strengths, weaknesses, things to work on. Boom, here's the training room. Here's how he's taking care of his body. Here's where you're at. Boom, here's Coach Sark's comments about any issues that he may have had off the field, okay? That's a snapshot of where you're at. And then I sit down with each player and say, hey, here's where you're at, okay? Here's where you can improve. Even a guy who's got, he's straight A's, he's an all conference, he's this, he's that. Well, how are we going to get better? How are we going to improve? And when you can be honest with them and you can show it to them, now there's not, well, but this, but that. No. This is exactly where you sit and this is exactly where you stand. That's the first part. The second part now where we've gotten to, when we got here in 2021, my first season as the head coach, we had 32 players in the NFL from the University of Texas playing in the NFL. In the last 3 drafts alone, we've had 28 players drafted. And so they all have dreams and aspirations. We were all kids, right? Laying on our bed, throwing the ball up in the air, dreaming of putting on that Dallas Cowboy helmet or the 49ers helmet, right? Well, now those things are a reality in our building. And the fact that they can look to their peers who they watch develop and watch grow, and now having that opportunity to say, hey, you know what? This is kind of the blueprint. And I may not be where I'm supposed to be right now, but if I keep working, if I keep doing things the right way, that can become a reality for me down the road.
Then you turn it around, and for your own personal self, as much as you evaluate kids, as much as you evaluate your staff, when it comes to self-evaluation, who handles that? How do you handle that?
Well, I'm probably my toughest critic. I hate admitting that out loud.
So 2 chairs in the room,
yeah,
and then you just go from chair to chair.
Yeah, man. And you know, I do it every game. I do it every week. I do it every Sunday. You know, I look at, you know, we may throw a 40-yard touchdown pass, and I'm thinking, God, that was a terrible call. They just blew the coverage. But you know, everyone said, what a great deal, this and that, or man, I did that kid a disservice. I shouldn't have put him in that position. You know, he's catching some heat for some blame on maybe the way he played, but that was really a disservice, you know, of some of the stuff we called in that situation, or how much he practiced that week, so on and so forth. So I'm probably my toughest critic. And then I just try to lean into the guys on the staff that I know are going to be honest with me, you know, and in certain particular areas. And I'll ask in a way that they may not know how I'm asking, but I'm really trying to get the feedback, knowing, okay, they agreed with what we're doing, or maybe they have a better way that we can do something, or they disagreed with what we did. And that's okay for them to disagree with. I think that's a sign of a healthy organization, that confrontation is a good thing, because that means if I surround myself with a bunch of yes people, right, that just tell me what I want to hear, we're not going to grow as a program. And the fact that we've got people in an organization who are confident enough in their own abilities to speak their mind, and that I'll praise those that when we change something, I praise those people whose idea it was. But I don't always have to agree. They may come to me with an idea, and I may say, you know, I like the idea, I'm just not ready to do that yet. That nobody feels offended that way too. And so there's a way to push people and to give them a seat at the table, to voice their opinion, but never demean them in a way when you don't go with their idea.
So a lot of people are going to watch this, and they're just working in an office where that dynamic may not be healthy. Right. They may not feel like they can give constructive feedback to their superior. Their superior never seeks it, or there's an environment cultivated of nothing but yes men, and then the result's terrible and everyone's surprised that they didn't get the result they wanted. This is a really, really high-level competitive business. It's a competitive environment. You have it built that way intentionally. So take people as much as you can, without giving specifics, into a staff room or into an offensive team meeting where you're openly encouraging guys, come at me. Challenge me. Yeah. I'm going to challenge you. Like, how fiery does that get from time to time?
I don't know if it necessarily gets fiery, but it's definitely real. It's authentic. You know, like I said, when we meet as a staff, I have everybody in there. I don't say, hey, this is just the full-time coaches. I mean, there's way too many people in this room. But part of that is for a reason. I want everybody on the same accord. So for example, you know, when everybody does that first meeting with their team, right? The philosophy meeting, and the goals,
walk back and forth a million times.
And the head coach is up there for 2 hours, and they take a break, and he goes again. Well, I do that meeting with our staff first. And I'm talking everybody in the recruiting department, everybody in academics, you know, anybody that's touching our players. I want everybody speaking the same language. I want everybody on the same accord. And then I ask, you know, what'd you think of this slide, or what about the way I said this? And I'll go around with the guys that'll give me honest feedback, and then I'll tweak some things. Then I'll go present it to the team. And I think that it's important that the staff's going to hear it twice now, because I want our players, that anybody that's touching them, to be speaking the same language. I think that that's one of the issues a lot of organizations have, that the person at top has an idea and a philosophy and a goal. But if those goals aren't resonating with everybody in the building, if they're not reciprocated in the various departments within the organization, somewhere in there that's going to break down, and the players are going to start to hear conflicting messaging. And that's all players and as humans we want, because that gives us an excuse.
Sure.
Right? But when it remains consistent, I think that that's healthy for the players, that, man, time and time again, that they're getting a consistent message. whether that's broad-based for the year or whether that's the weekly message from game to game. I think that that's really important. But to your point on something you were saying earlier about that you just do it again, right? What's the yes men and we just do it and you wonder why the results aren't good. Well, that's the definition of insanity. Keep doing the same things, expecting a different result. Well, you're going to have to make some changes along the way. You're going to have to adapt. And we talked about that a year ago, right? Adapt or die. Sure. And we're in a landscape of college football right now where we have to be adaptable, man. We got to be light on our feet. We got to be able to move and adjust to the things that are happening right now in college football. I'd love to say on a yearly basis. I'd love to say on a monthly basis. It feels like on a weekly basis. Something new's coming, a rule change. It's this, it's that. And if you don't adapt to it, the game will pass us by. And I think that that's something we're been really proud of around here, that we've adapted to the changes of college football that have allowed us to grow the way that we have as a program.
It's hard, man. It's same thing in the media industry. It's happening in the football industry. It's just rapid evolution and everything's changing over a 12, 24, 36-month period where 3 years ago, nothing looked like it does now.
Right.
Similarly in your walk of life. It's human nature, though, to desire comfortability.
Sure.
And to have structure in a set way that things are working. And when you're saying what you're saying, you're not saying I don't have that in me. You're saying you got to kind of push that to the side sometimes and get with the idea that even if this thing's changing in a way I may not necessarily love, it's changing regardless. Yeah. So my personal preferences have to go to the side.
That's right.
And I got to stay at the forefront of this wave. And not only do you have to have that mentality, you're talking about it permeating down through your building and through your organization where that's made up of humans too.
That's right.
So you have to convince every human, you got to think this way. Even if you don't love this direction, we got to go this direction.
We all love routine.
Yes.
Routine is comfortable. It's safe. What we try to preach around here is we need to be comfortable being uncomfortable, because it's going to be uncomfortable. A season's going to be uncomfortable. I can't tell you what the weather's going to be in week 1 in Columbus. I can't tell you what the weather's going to be here week 2 against San Jose State. I don't know what time the kickoff times. Half the time, I don't know what time we're kicking off till 6 days before the game. Is it a day game? Is it a night game? Some cities you go to, they got great hotels. Some places you go to, they got small hotels. Those are what they are. But if they might make us uncomfortable. The plane might have an issue. We got to take off 3 hours later. What are we going to do? They're not going to call off the game. So we better get comfortable being uncomfortable. And that's in college football in general right now. To sit around and complain about rule changes and things and settlements that are coming down the pipe, that does us no good. Let's look at the situation we're in, and then how can we make the best of the situation that we're in and look at it from an open mind. And one of the worst answers anybody can ever give me in any space is, oh, that's just what we've always done before.
Terrible.
Or we've never done it that way before. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear about what's best for the situation and think about our players first, and then worry about us. And so if we can go into every situation with that kind of mindset, generally we're going to try to get to a resolution that is pretty good. Not some are better than others, I understand that, but for the most part, pretty good.
When you're looking at a player, whether you're recruiting them out of high school or you're looking at them in the portal, there are different factors, both tangible and intangible, that you're probably looking for. When you're adding guys to your staff,
right?
When you're doing your due diligence, if you're thinking about adding me as a defensive line coach,
right?
What do you want to know about me? And before we ever speak,
right,
what are you looking into? What are the few signifiers that I maybe cut out to work for you?
Well, I think I like to talk to people that you've worked with, and how do they talk about you? What are some of the first things that come out of the mouth? Do they pause? Why do they pause? That means they're trying to decipher through some information, right? What do they reference? Do they reference how great of a coach you are? Do they reference how great of a guy you are? Okay. Do they reference that the players like you? Do they reference that, he has friction with his players, but they perform good? None of it's bad, good, and different, but I'm taking in information of who you are, right? Of how people perceive you. And again, how people perceive you does not always define us, but it at least gives me a little bit of a snapshot. Then when I get to talking to you, a lot of what I do is get to know you. Right? You wouldn't have got to this level to where you're getting recommended for a job at the University of Texas if you didn't know some level of football, right? But what kind of person are you? right? Are you going to enhance this building? Because we've got a great thing going. We've got a great building here. And the last thing is I want to infect this building with something that could really hinder us on the journey that we're on. So the person matters for the coaches that we hire here. And that's on offense, defense, special teams. That's in our scouting and recruiting department. That's in every aspect of our organization. I think if anybody, you talk to anybody around here, is what we have going is the people, right? Because hey, let me tell you something. Everybody's got great facilities nowadays. And if they don't have them, they're building new ones. Okay. Everybody's got a great stadium. All right. Everybody's got 19 uniforms that they put on week in and week out. So what's going to make us different? Okay. The people. And so if all I'm worried about is how smart you are as a coach and neglect maybe who you are as a person, sooner or later, I'm going to fail in that hiring process. And so I try to learn you as a person to make sure that you can align with or where we're headed as a program from a mentality standpoint.
The teams that we watch that win every year, one of the commonalities is the group of guys is really willing to go over the cliff because they believe in their leadership. They believe in the head coach. They're willing to play extremely hard for him. Same thing at the positional level, but I'm talking about head coach for a second. When you get guys here, when you talk to them, I know you guys do like Culture Wednesday, for example, and you're trying to open the hood beyond football. Yeah. Just talk about life. You've lived one.
Oh, yeah.
How brutally open are you with your players just about your past?
I'm very open, because they all have an idea. And now, especially some of the players that are in year 3, right? They have a pretty good idea of the life that I've lived. And I wouldn't change my life for anything. If it weren't my life, I wouldn't be here today. But I want them to know what shaped me and how I got here. And so to do that, I have to be really honest with them. I have to be open. I have to share. I have to talk about the adversity in my life. Some self-inflicted wounds, some not self-inflicted wounds. But the reality of it is when they can actually get to know my story and then why now I think I'm relatively successful, especially in this job, because I do believe this. I believe the really good teams, to your point, do take on somewhat the personality of the head coach. And I think about those years at Bama. Coach Saban's the most disciplined human being I've ever been around in my life. I could tell you what the guy's going to eat for breakfast every day. I can almost predict what he's going to wear to work on a Wednesday in season, what he's going to have for lunch that day, what time he's watching third downs. Like, he lives a regimented, disciplined life. Well, what's one of the first things that come out of your mouth when you reference those Alabama football teams when that played for Nick Saban? Discipline.
Yeah, almost
right?
Militaristic.
Yeah, and so the point being is, okay, I need them to know who I am and what I've been through, and because that's what I'm trying to instill into them. This level of grit, this level of resiliency, this level of mental and physical toughness, the ability to respond to the adversity that gets thrown at us, not only in real life, but on the football field. That's kind of who I am, right? That's been my story. That's been what I've had to do. And so what's my best way to instill that into our team? Get to know me. Get to know what I'm about. All right, and then let me get to know you, and then let's work on some of those things, and let's create an avenue between each and every player that they can share with me, they can get close to me in a way where maybe it's unique, maybe it's not. I don't know. It feels unique to me. I feel like we have something special here that way that allows me to tap into them in a way that's differently than maybe any other coach tapped into me, that I can help them on this journey. When adversity does strike, their response can be maybe a little different, maybe a little better than before. That can help them not only on the football field, but in real life.
There were a lot of critics that had a lot to say about Quinn Ewers this past draft cycle, and how he falls to what round he falls to in the draft, and whether he should have stayed in college, whether he should have portaled somewhere else, and he made a big mistake. I had my take on it, but I was really interested how you sort of sat off to the side and observed that whole ordeal.
Yeah. First of all, Quinn Ewers decided to come to the University of Texas when we were a 5-7 football team. And we owe a ton to Quinn because I think we all look at, hey, here's a guy that started for 3 years at quarterback for us, battled injuries all 3 years, leads us to 2 college football playoffs, leads us to a Big 12 championship, leads us to an SEC championship game our first year in the conference. And that's his legacy at Texas. His legacy is way bigger to me than just that. Because if Quinn Ewers doesn't come, I don't know if the next 5 guys are coming.
Right.
And if those next 5 guys don't come, I don't know if the next 10 guys are coming. And then if those 10 guys don't come, I don't know if the next 20 guys are coming. So that was a huge deal for him to want to come be part of our program, that he could see the forest through the trees of about where we were headed as a program. And then obviously the impact that he had on the field for us. And I think it was your take, and I may have stolen a little of this, but I totally agree with you in that, everybody is got a comment about a kid who leaves the school and goes to another school for more money. How could he do that? This is college football now. What's going on with college football? All of a sudden, here's Quinn Ewers, who decides not to go to another school, to say, you know what, I've left a legacy at the University of Texas. I'm going to go chase my dreams and fulfill my dreams of playing in the NFL. And now those same critics, those same people are saying, how could he not go take that money?
Are you suggesting hypocrisy?
I just, sometimes
Wow.
I wonder that, who are we to judge and criticize a young man who's making a decision about his future, who's only done things the right way, to the best of his ability, who gave everything he could to our program and decided, you know what, now's my time. It's time for me to go on to the next journey of life, and that's trying to go play quarterback in the National Football League, and we're here to support him. But to criticize him for not taking the money, like, what are we talking about? Because every other conversation is about how could he do that? How could he go take the money?
Bag chasing. Just bag chasing.
Which one is it?
Do you, well, the answer to this is yes. So instead I'll phrase it, how many times, whether it's an assistant coach that may have another opportunity, it's a player that may have an opportunity, do you sit across the desk from a guy and he's laying out his situation? Right. And you know full well the public's going to know about 5% of the details, whereas you're getting 100% of the picture.
Right.
And you just got to sometimes sit there and keep your mouth shut, because if you open it, you're probably going to say some stuff you regret. But you just have to watch a guy, kid or full-grown adult, get criticized for a decision that in your heart made sense. Had the public known the details, it would make sense to them, but it's just not their business to know it. How often does that happen?
Fair amount. And sometimes you don't agree with the decision and you voice your opinion in that, but then you never disclose that conversation that you have. I think something that, like, we're now in this space of, I try to lose sight of being an assistant coach, right? I've been a head coach for quite some time. Had a chance to go back and be an assistant coach for about 6 years, and now back being in this chair, I try not to lose sight of how they view things, because an assistant coach's view is different than the view that you have as a head coach. And, a sign of a healthy program is assistant coaches getting opportunities, right? And we've had coaches leave here and become head coaches. We've had coaches leave here and go and become coordinators in college football. We've had coaches leave here and go coach in the National Football League. And great, that's awesome for them. Like, that's a sign of a healthy, successful program. Just like we've had players leave early for the NFL draft. Just like we've had players in our program say, you know what, I'm going to transfer coach because I think what's really happened is you've out-recruited me. Mm-hmm. That's a sign of a healthy program, and I'm okay with that. And I continue to support everybody in those endeavors, because that just means that we've grown in a way as a program in a space that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. It makes those jobs more attractive for the next guy, thinking, man, if I go there, I might have an opportunity to become a coordinator myself. Or, as a player, if I go there, I might have an opportunity to go play in the National Football League myself. So I look at it maybe from a little bit different lens that way, because we are in the business of creating opportunity and trying to better the lives of everybody around us if we can do so.
Do you think in terms of coaching tree, like the older, established, longtime veteran head coaches who have done it the right way, you start talking about their coaching tree, the guys who coached under them that went on to do this and that. And then you start talking about, like, certain coaching staffs that Saban had, for instance, that end up yielding all kinds of head coaching fruit down the road. No, it's not going to impact you this year, whether a guy gets a job 10 years from now. But also, you're talking about having an impact on someone's life that, for all we know, is 24 years old walking these hallways right now.
It's crazy.
And 20 years from now, they're on camera talking about how, man, Sark gave me an opportunity. And because of the opportunity you gave him, because he was good enough to earn it, then he's given opportunities to like dozens of guys. It's a way that you give back to the game, but it's also happening in real time for you.
I'm listening to you twofold here. Okay, one is you're exactly right, and it's so awesome to think that I was just fast forwarding, like thinking about a few people in our building right now. Like you have an idea who's got a chance and what it might look like down the road, but on the same token, I don't want to get old. I want to stay as young as I can, man. Life is so good, you know, and like we're so blessed in what we have going right now. That I want to like freeze myself, like, because I think about, I'm 51, you know, and I always say like I'm playing the second half of my coaching career now. You know, obviously started young and started early, but I hope I can do this for as long as I can. And so I never want to think about the end. I want to think about like be in the moment and be where we're at right now. But to your point, you know, the opportunities that a lot of people are getting, not only here, but around the country, right? I mean, there's a lot of great programs that people get to be part of and coaches to work for. But that's what's shaping our future of the sport, right? And that we have a responsibility to that, to your point.
You know, you're talking about having a sense of time. There's that quote from The Office, I wish I knew I was in the good old days before I've left them.
Yeah.
But the nature of the good old days is most of the time you have to be removed from them to reminisce on how great they were. So there's a lot to be gained from knowing you're there in the moment. You're talking about it in your walk of life. I know I'm in a sweet spot in my walk of life right now. Do you have like an appreciation of a sense of time like that? You can't slow it down. It's always marching. Yeah. But do you have an appreciation of time like that, given how hectic your day-to-day is as a head coach?
Much better today than it was, 15 years ago. Much better. Now it's... Look at this. Yeah. I'm the head coach at the University of Texas, right? And the people that I get to associate myself with on a daily basis, from players to staff to administrators to donors. I mean, the city of Austin, there's so many great things going on. 15 years ago, man, I didn't think that way. I was thinking about what's next, where are we headed, what's next, focusing on the end result rather than the process. But now I'm much more equipped to slow down and to take each day, each moment within the day and give it the appreciation that it deserves. Because I don't think I used to do that in my past. But I definitely today feel comfortable in saying that and knowing that, man, I appreciate this opportunity, right? 4 years ago, guys like you weren't coming here to interview me before the season, right? And now here you are, right?
It would have been in a very different vein.
Yeah, and
no draft picks.
Yeah, no,
are
what
you
the
serious?
Hell's going on here? And so, like, I don't lose sight of that. Like, we've earned a lot of these things. Let's let these things blow by. Let's appreciate them for what they are and appreciate the people that do want to be around our program for all the right reasons.
The concept of time, both bigger picture, but then also in the micro sense in a game. Like you get really, really dialed in.
Yeah.
During those 4 quarters on a Saturday, to the point where I'm not sure most humans get that focused on a thing ever.
Right.
But you got to be, because you're running a team, but you're also you're calling plays.
Yeah.
Can you, in layman enough terms for people to understand, walk people through from the time your alarm clock goes off on a game day to the time you're on team bus, you're getting to the building, you're going through warm-ups, you're back in the locker room, 5 minutes, 4 minutes, 3 minutes, take the field, they give you the headset, you may do a pregame interview, 2 questions, and you're out, and then it's boom, and everything and it's got to clear the mechanism. Yeah. And it's 4 quarters, and to us, it's 3.5 or 4 hours. Yeah. To you, what does that time even feel like?
Well, first of all, there's nothing better than game day. Like, I get up like it's Christmas morning. I'm so excited on game day, but my mind is going. My mind, it's like you get up, turn the switch on, and it's on. Your mind is going, and you're constantly thinking about contingency plans, because you have the plan of offense, defense, special teams, and then the nuances within the plan.
And then it's 9 to 6 midway through the second
then what
quarter,
if one of those things isn't going right? What's the contingency plan? But when I step on the grass before the game, I go out probably a little earlier than most head coaches. because there's, to your point, there's so much other stuff. You got recruits there, you got donors there, you got all, the stuff, the music's playing, and sometimes I just want to get into my space, into my zone. And so I would get on the field and I just walk around and do nothing.
Yep.
But I'm out there earlier probably than most head coaches because I'm calling the plays too. And so I have to kind of get myself into this space, to your point, that is almost a little bit of a silo, to think very clearly and to be clear-minded and to be focused. But then when the moment hits, right, when that ball gets kicked off, to put it into perspective, think about making a decision every 30 seconds. Imagine if you're sitting at home and for the next 4 hours, your wife asking you, what do you want to eat? Every 30 seconds.
Man, I don't know.
When you say, I don't know, that's called a delay a game. Every 30 seconds. You're making a decision every 30 seconds for the next 4 hours. And so what happens is when it's all said and done, there's this odd feeling of you're exhausted, but yet you're still amped up.
Yeah.
Like you have to find a way to get yourself to come back off of that because you're on, you're literally on for 4 straight hours.
Well, that's why I told a buddy we were coming out here. He sent me a clip. I don't even know what game it was. It was Laura Rutledge, though, that was getting you for halftime.
Yeah.
And you gave like a quick answer. And then you're off to the locker room and they're saying, man, look how different Sark sounds. And I'm saying, well, he's in the middle of a football game.
Yeah.
Like you probably you probably watch yourself in a football game.
Weird.
And then if you're Tuesday afternoon watching film of yourself Saturday, you're saying, look at that dude.
Yeah,
he's me.
Yeah.
Look at that guy. He's locked in. But the level of focus, that's what's always fascinated me because I'm not calling a game. I'm not coaching. But I'm in those buildings on Saturday. And I don't think until people attend a college football game, they can really fully appreciate what I call sensory overload.
Yeah.
The crowd, the colors, the sounds, the sights. You don't experience that anywhere else until you're in that building. You don't get it on the practice field.
No.
You don't get it anywhere else. And so to be in that environment and to focus on talking into a microphone, much less focus on calling plays, the ones who can do it, like it's always just blown my mind that you're able to get to that level of focus.
Well, I think at that interview, we weren't playing very good in the first half either. So, I always hold on to a moment that I think helped with that perspective for me. I don't know if you remember when Villanova wins a national championship a few years ago, and Jay Wright, they hit the shot to win it. There was no emotion. He literally turned and started to just walk towards the opponent's head coach to shake his hand. Like, you can get all the way there to where you don't even feel the crowd anymore. You don't even feel like you're in such your mind is so focused on what do I need to do next that sometimes you don't feel those emotions. I honestly try not to go all the way there because I do think there's an advantage to feeling some of that emotion, to having some of that that is created in an environment, in an atmosphere. But I also think, we've been a really good road team. I think we currently have the longest road winning streak in the country, and we've played in some tough environments. But I think that, again, I'm able to take some of that I get and instill that into our team, that our team can stay focused and not be distracted on some of the things going on outside of them and focus on the task at hand. And it's so far so good. It's worked out for us.
So I could talk to you for 5 hours about that, but I do want to get you out of here on this. You guys, you've lost a ton in the draft, which is a blessing. Then you've also got to backfill it. And defensive line specifically, like that was an area everyone knew when they looked at Texas and they said they're probably going to have to go to the portal to address this. You guys did. Going through spring as you have now, how comfortable are you, lines of scrimmage and beyond? You guys at least have the personnel you need to go attack your goals.
Yeah, I don't think we're a finished product. And if I said we were, that'd probably be lying, right? We've had some young players that have grown up in our program that we're excited about on both sides of the line of scrimmage. We've brought in some transfers, most notably on the defensive side of the ball, that helped us this spring. We brought in a couple more in the spring portal window that I think are going to be great additions for us. But I think for us as a program, this summer is going to be huge June and July are our skill development stuff that we work on. The team aspect of really bringing this team together. Our Culture Wednesdays are going to be big. Their work with Tori Becton, right, in the weight room, running in the Austin heat on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons at 4 in the afternoon, where it feels like the hottest place on the earth. But that's when we grow together as a team. And then training camp's going to be a big thing. And we've got to push these guys. We've got to remain demanding of them, of what the standard is around here, and instill it in them. And that's a responsibility on a lot of their teammates too, to get that done. When you bring in new faces, we always try to ensure is that they acclimate to us. We don't acclimate to them. And so that's why we're so strategic, and we really take our time when it comes to the portal. We just don't bring anybody in here. There's a lot of really good players out there. It's not just about any. It might not always be the best player.
Yeah.
It's the best player that fits us. And that's something that we've tried to do and hold on to, and so far it's worked out pretty good for us.
This is awesome, man. We appreciate it.
That was great.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.